What's up guys, it's Miguel, and in this video what I want to do is I want to start taking an approach at action taking in a way that you can actually apply it in real life. Now the reason I want to go over this is because recently I just went on my very first hiking trip. Now of course in self-development this doesn't sound like a huge stepping stone or a huge milestone that I should really be proud of. But the thing is that I learned so many lessons that I couldn't help but make a video about this. And the funny thing about that is that we all have different levels of achievements that we like to either boast about or we like to actually be considered proud of. But the thing is that if we measure our expectations or our level of achievements according to everybody else, then we're never gonna feel that sense of dopamine or that dopamine kick that we usually get when we actually do come and finally achieve that goal. That sense of satisfaction is removed from it, and we don't actually savor the moment the way that we're supposed to. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to start looking at what it actually looks like to start using this in a sense of urgency and start living your life in a way that you can actually start applying a paradigm in which it's actually going to put you in a mental state of action taking and actually start producing a lot more results, whether that's in your personal life, your social life, or your professional life. So let's get started. The very first thing I want to go over is wanting to have the situation be perfect. I believe it was Robert Kiyosaki, and he in one of his books, The Rich Dad Poor Dads. The funny thing about that is that there's a lot of information and a lot of gurus out there that most of the content that they actually put out there is fluff, but you can actually cherry pick, or what I've seen personally is that you can actually cherry pick a lot of the advice that they share, and most of it is actually valuable if you actually look at it in a different perspective. So what I got from Robert Kiyosaki from the Rich Dad Poor Dad books is not waiting for all the lights to be green in order to press the gas. Now what that meant for me is not wanting the situation to be perfect in order for me to actually start taking the action to produce the results. So what did that look like for me? According to like the Monte Cristo story that I was telling you guys about, you should really check it out. It's in El Paso, Texas. But if it was anybody else, I actually saw the time. It was running a little bit late. I didn't have the cash to actually go out there and start and produce the results that I wanted, or actually the circumstance just wasn't ideal for me. And I had two options. I could have either just given up, stayed in bed, slept in, and just simply lived the same day that I was living week by week, or I could go on a little adventure and experience something new. And what I found is that even though the circumstances wasn't ideal, or it wasn't perfect, or it wasn't the perfect temperature, it wasn't the perfect time, and nothing went as I really planned it, what I saw is that I enjoyed it that much more because it gave the story a little bit more flavor. We got there a little bit late. Everybody was actually already coming down when we were going there, and people were looking at us like we were a little bit crazy. And I know this because when we got up to the peak, there was nobody behind us. We took a couple of photos, and that created another situation in which we actually had to, we could actually take better photos because there was nobody in our way, and we didn't have that social pressure of looking a little bit awkward in front of everybody else. Because a lot of these people, they were very conditioned hikers. They were already kind of seasoned. They knew like what to expect. And me and my partner, we just simply didn't know like what to expect from this situation. And you tend to feel a little bit of resistance when you want to try something new. And that resistance, we usually use excuses. We use a lot of these ideal circumstances in our head to basically keep us from actually taking action. So the very first lesson that I want to imply, or the very first lesson that I want to start emphasizing here, is to not wait for all the lights to be green in order to push the gas. You'll figure it out as you go. Don't wait till you get all the equipment. Don't leave any requirements in order for you to take the most minimum amount of action. Now, this can be very different. With a little bit of creativity, you can start to apply it in a lot of different ways. You don't need necessarily the perfect running shoes in order to start either jogging or start walking around the block. You don't need the perfect equipment to actually start recording videos in order for you to start producing content and start honing in on your speaking skills. Just start taking action as soon as possible. Now, the next lesson that I learned was actually just enjoying the moment, enjoying the process. Of course, like I said, It was my very first hike, so of course I'm not gonna be as conditioned as everybody else. I can't set my expectations as high as everybody else is there, simply because I don't have the work. I don't have the elbow grease. I don't have the experience that a lot of other people had that were already there, and you could see like the huge gap in experience, but that shouldn't deter you from actually living your life and actually producing the progress that you need. It's essential for you to actually see that, because not only do you actually have a certain expectation after that, or something to strive for, but you can actually begin to see your progress as you look back. Like once you actually reach that level to where everybody else is, where you start associating with the seasoned colleagues, you start associating with everybody else that's been there for a while, you look back and you start to remember, like, hey, you know what, I actually struggled at the very beginning. I actually didn't know XYZ when I barely started. So that's one of the other things that I really want to emphasize, is not necessarily giving yourself an out, or not necessarily giving yourself a reason to suck and stay sucking, but just simply allow yourself to actually become a beginner at whatever it is that you're doing. Now, the reason this is so difficult, or the reason that I saw that a lot of people struggle with this, is simply because our ego gets in the way. And especially the older we get, the more we're expected to actually have the answers to a lot of problems. But it's completely fine if you're barely beginning on a new venture, like if you're barely beginning on something new, to become the student again. I believe that's where that quote comes of the cup runneth over, where you actually need to empty out your cup from all the knowledge and all the experience from everything else that you know already, in order to learn something new. Like you need to become the newbie again. You need to become the level 1 player again. So give yourself the space to actually suck, to just enjoy the process and actually just be present. That's one of the things that, even though it was really hot, even though I was panting, even though I was exhausted, and at times I just wanted to turn back and just give up on the hike overall, I stuck in, and I can honestly say that it was very well worth the experience. I had a lot of lessons that I learned from it, and I started learning that if I don't live my life with urgency, like nobody else is gonna push me to do it. Nobody else is gonna push me to actually have those experiences, because it's in nobody else's interest. So the sooner you understand and the sooner you realize, like, okay, there's nobody else that's actually gonna help me out. There's nobody else that's really invested in my progress as much as I am. It's my responsibility if I wanna grow or if I wanna remain the same. Once you start realizing that this is the harsh reality of life, only then can you actually start to begin to motivate yourself and actually start to look for ways that you can actually start applying a lot of information that you already know. Because what I've seen time and time again is that we consume a lot of information. I know a lot of people that read. I know a lot of people that watch documentaries. They learn a lot of lessons, and they just simply don't apply the information. So this is where the rubber meets the road, where you finally start actually realizing what it's like to become that level 1 player again, and actually begin to see that progress that you know that you're capable of, but you're just, maybe either you're a little bit hesitant to do it because you're afraid of rejecting that ideal version of yourself, or maybe you're waiting for that ideal circumstance. Whatever it is, the stars are never going to align, and the circumstances are never going to be ideal. You just have to learn to work with what you got. And basically those are the biggest lessons that I learned from this hike alone. And I may be stretching it a little bit too much, like I may be making a huge deal out of it, but I feel like living life with urgency is key to actually living a rich and fulfilling life. So that's my speed for today. I'll see you guys on the next one, and peace.